Hi everyone, this is Dr. Krishnan.K, and today we discuss about the anatomy of basal ganglia. So the basal ganglia or the nuclei are large masses of grey matter situated within the cerebral hemispheres, and they includes the caudate nucleus, the lentiform nucleus, which is having two functionally distinct parts. They are the putamen and globus pallidus. Then the amygdaloid nuclear complex, the claustrum. These are the parts which are present in the basal ganglia. And the basal ganglia forms a part of extrapyramidal system which is concerned with the integration and the regulation of motor activities. And the components of basal ganglia, it is having three primary components, that is the corpus striatum, substantia nigra, and the subthalamic nucleus. And the corpus striatum, its mass of grey matter that is situated at the base of cerebral hemispheres in close relation to that of the thalamus. The internal capsule divides the corpus striatum into two parts. So, in total, it is corpus striatum, which is separated by the internal capsule into caudate nucleus and the lentiform nucleus. So, the first one, that is the caudate nucleus, it is an elongated, arched grey mass lying medial to the internal capsule, and throughout its length, it is related to the lateral ventricle. And it has got three parts, that is the head, body, and tail. So here we have a diagrammatic representation, that is the caudate nucleus here. The purple color one is the caudate nucleus, which is having a head, body, and tail. And at the tip of the tail you can see the amygdaloid nucleus or the amygdaloid complex, and this represents the caudate nucleus. So you can draw the simple diagram to represent the caudate nucleus. And the lentiform nucleus, it is wedge shaped, situated lateral to the internal capsule. A vertical plate of white matter divides the lentiform nucleus into two parts. So there is an outer putamen and the inner globus pallidus. So while explaining the internal capsule, we have seen these two parts. So I repeat, here you can see the wedge-shaped lentiform nucleus, which is having an outer putamen and the inner, the globus pallidus. Then the substantia nigra, which is located below the red nucleus, and it is made up of large pigmented and small non-pigmented cells. And the pigment contains high quantity of iron, that's why it has got that dark coloration. And while the subthalamic nucleus lies lateral to the red nucleus and dorsal to the substantia nigra. So the next one is the claustrum, which is functionally related to the limbic system but structurally comes under the basal ganglia. A thin lamina of grey matter that lies lateral to the lentiform nucleus is termed as the claustrum. It is separated from the lentiform nucleus by the fibers of the external capsule that we'll be seeing in the following diagram. And the amygdaloid nuclear complex, which is functionally related to the limbic system but structurally coming under the basal ganglia, is also called as amygdaloid body or amygdala, and it lies in the temporal lobe of cerebral hemisphere and close to the temporal pole. So here you can see all the structures. The first one, you can see the caudate nucleus here. This is a coronal section through the brain or the cerebral hemispheres. So here you can see the caudate nucleus in two areas. You have seen the structure of caudate nucleus where it is having a head, body and tail, and it is arched down. That's why it has got two sections here. That is the caudate nucleus. Then you can see the lentiform nucleus here, which is composed of putamen and the globus pallidus. And lateral to the lentiform nucleus, you can see a small grey matter line that represents the claustrum, and the claustrum is separated from the lentiform nucleus by external capsule. Here we have the internal capsule and here we have the external capsule. And the subthalamic nucleus, you can see it is just below the thalamus, and below that you can see a pigmented area, that is the substantia nigra, and these are the parts you have to remember under the basal ganglia. The connections of basal ganglia is very important. The afferent and efferent connections of the corpus striatum, substantia nigra, and the subthalamic nucleus, and in addition to the afferent and efferent connections, the different components of the corpus striatum of the same side are connected by the intrinsic fibers running in between them. Then there are connections between putamen to the globus pallidus, caudate nucleus to the globus pallidus, and the caudate nucleus to the putamen. So these are the connections you have to remember in case of basal ganglia. Then the functions of basal ganglia, which includes the control of muscle tone, the control of the motor activity, the control of reflex muscular activity, the control of automatic associated movements, and the role in arousal mechanism. So these are the basic functions of the basal ganglia. So they work in a synchronized manner and they make all these actions possible. So if something happens to the structures, that can cause certain disorders of the basal ganglia. For example, the Parkinson's disease, which you might have heard before, it affects the basal ganglia, and there will be like involuntary tremors in the hands, then in the limbs. So all these things can happen. Then the second one is chorea, which is the abnormal involuntary movements of the limbs. Then Huntington's chorea, which is an inherited progressive neural disorder where there is a inherited disease, and because of that there will be gradual destruction of the basal ganglia and all, and that will cause irregularities in the control of movements and all those things. So this concludes the basal ganglia. Thank you.